Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode of Mikasa Sukasa, and I am your host, Niko House. I want to urge you all to join our One Follow, $1 campaign. Help us combat censorship. Help us combat Facebook and Twitter and YouTube trying to silence the independent journalists, which there's been way too much of. Way too much. I mean, like I said, people, I'm blocked from sharing my own posts on Facebook. On Twitter, I've been called a Russia bot. They emailed me. Let me know I'm Russian. Seriously. YouTube people are being forced to unsubscribe. They're not even getting the notifications for a channel they subscribe to and that they have the notification bell turned on for. This has not only been talked about by myself, and I'm a progressive, by the way. This has been talked about by the conservative side. This has been talked about by Lee Camp. Even Mike Cernovich talked about it. David Rubin, Tim Black, H.A. Goodman. I mean, everybody from every side of the political spectrum has been attacked by a McCarthyist corporate government movement. This is what happens when your government gets too big, the corporations get too big, and both sides end up going unchecked. So please help donate to our One Follow, $1 campaign on Patreon so that we don't get choked out by censorship. So I wanted to discuss really fast this nonsense that I just read. So Raw Story, by the way, I like Raw Story for the most part. Most of the time, they do some pretty good work. But this time, it's got a little ridiculous. It's a little, somebody's reaching. Somebody is reaching. So the title of the story is called Maddow. Carter Page knew about Nunez's memo months in advance during a nutty MSNBC interview. I don't think that that's weird. Maybe they know something that we don't know. So let's go ahead and read about it. Rachel Maddow on Friday uncovered an intriguing subtext to the House Intelligence Committee's controversial memo released earlier in the day that it may reveal a GOP scheme to turn former senior Trump campaign aide Carter Page surveillance warrants into a plan to exonerate the president. Okay, must be a crazy plan. Let's go ahead and read some more. The memo, Maddow argues, fleshes out the timeline of Page's warrants that were granted by the secretive Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, which would mean that when he appeared in a nutty interview, which wasn't that nutty, with her coworker Chris Hayes in late October 2017, he was likely still under surveillance. Yeah, that's what surveillance is about, but let's continue. All of Carter Page's interviews are a little nutty, she conceded, but he said this one now very intriguing thing, not really about his own case or even about Donald Trump, but about the House Republicans. He said, I think when the truth comes out, when Speaker Paul Ryan says the FISA warrant or the other details about the dodgy dossier and what happened and all the documents surrounding it, when those are released, that's what I'm excited about, Page said in the October 30th interview. I think the truth will set a lot of people free. I don't think that's is that weird? Is that a weird statement? He said, when the truth comes out, I'll be exonerated. I don't see, but maybe I'm missing something. If y'all reading more into this than I am, hey, leave your thoughts and comments below. Maybe I'm misreading this. Maddow said, because of the way he talks and behaves in interviews, this is the shit I hate about Maddow and Joanne Reed. Good. They don't even use facts anymore. Facts have gone totally out the window. All of a sudden, they've become investigative journalists and also apparently body language fluent, or like body language specialists, because that's what they do now. They can do every job except for research facts. But now all of a sudden they're investigative journalists. But hey, let Maddow give the analysis of Carter Page's body language. Because of the way he talks and behaves in interviews, everything Carter Page says seems fuzzy. What the fuck? What does that even mean? Whatever. Maddow admitted. But what he just said actually is what happened. And he knew about it months in advance. Yeah, he was under investigation. I'm sure he still talks to Trump. Trump said with the GOP that we're going to try and bring this to public knowledge because this is a clear conflict of interest and we believe that the American people should know. I don't think that's unfathomable at all. I think that's pretty commonsensical. I would imagine that he would know what's going on in his investigation, or whatever's going on with him. That I would want to be involved in whatever's going on in my investigation. So I think that he would expect the same thing, especially when the person that he helped manage becomes president. He said, though it just sounded like another crazy thing that Page said, Maddow noted that his strange comment about Ryan and the FISA warrants now seem oddly prescient. For those of you who don't know, it means very like it was like foreshadowing. Right? So for some reason, it looked like he could see ahead. Months ago, there was a plan in the works that Carter Page knew about that involved Paul Ryan, that they would try to use the warrant against Carter Page to make a public case to try and turn that warrant somehow into some sort of public information that presumably would be used to turn Russia's investigation into a scandal, she concluded. What? I want you to know something, people. This is what the title of this article says. Maddow, Carter Page knew about Nunez's memo months in advance during nutty MSNBC interview. Then she says that Maddow on Friday uncovered intriguing subtext to the House Intelligence Committee controversial memo released earlier that day, that it may reveal a GOP scheme to turn former senior Trump campaign aides' surveillance warrants into a plan to exonerate the president. What? So because someone knew that their plan, not even a plan, because someone knew that, hey, there was some corruption going on, we're probably going to make this public, because it should be public, because the Democrats and some senior officials of the FBI have been taking advantage of the system and taking advantage of the naivety of the American people, that it's a plan to exonerate Trump. Now, I don't actually agree that it's a plan to exonerate Trump. I do believe it is a plan to expose the corruption of the DNC. I do believe that it is a plan to expose the clear bias that the dossier contained, that the person who created the dossier had, as he explicitly said that he absolutely did not want Donald Trump to be involved. He lied, by the way, several times to the FBI as well, Christopher Steele. This seems pretty standard. I don't think that yeah, it's a plot. I'm not going to pretend like there's no plot whatsoever, because everything in politics is a plot. But it seems like this is what would happen anyway, right? If you lie and then say, because remember, the Republicans still have to defend themselves. So it's like every time, they do their nonsense here too, but as far as the Russiagate situation, every time they say something to try and say where are the facts at, the Democrats say, oh, look at those Russian Republicans over there. And so now they have to defend themselves, as they should. But I think it's even more important, because the more this type of information comes out, the more we can move towards holding people accountable for trying to use propaganda to deceive the American people. So I hope it continues to come out. I don't see that memo was perfectly fine. They made it seem like there was just so much like top secret stuff that had to be crossed out. The only thing top secret that looked crossed out was the title top secret. And the only reason it looked like, they didn't mention who helped fund the memo. They didn't mention any of the people or the parties involved. They talked about the general who signed, like they talked about generally who signed what, which is, I think, perfectly permitted, because like all you have to do is do a little bit of research and you'll find out who is supposed to sign what in those scenarios. But you also find out eventually that, yeah, the Democratic Party was highly and heavily invested in the Trump dossier. So of course, if the party paid for the dossier, don't you believe that the dossier is probably going to be a little skewed? Salacious and unverified. They're being sued. BuzzFeed is being sued. A lot of people are being sued right now because of how unverifiable a lot of those claims are. Soon we're going to have a video up about why the entire Russiagate thing is a myth. It would be a kind of a longer video, so that's why I have not done it yet. And I also want to have a little bit more of this information come out before we do, but it's coming. It's coming. And you know, I've done one before. I've done one in the past, but I think that we need a refresher course, right? So make sure you check out The podcast, you can look at the link in the description below. Post one every single day, so make sure you keep up with those. Also, make sure you check out the articles. One's entitled talking about having a conversation with Bernie Sanders about Russiagate, and we need to have that conversation because he's not on the right side of that team. I also wrote another article discussing that Bernie Sanders is probably going to be our best option for 2020, and that it explains, or at least attempts to rationalize some of the decisions he's made since 2016. I also wrote an article talking about how weirdly uncomfortable and wrong it was that Joe Kennedy spoke Spanish to DACA recipients, and because there's not only Spanish-speaking DACA recipients, but that's a different conversation. So make sure you read those articles, check them out, let me know what you think, and click subscribe. Always remember, ladies and gentlemen, find your balance. Peace.